So allow me to tell you a little story about how I became a bad girl. So growing up in Latin America, black was always the opposite of what you aspired to be. Why? Well, because we were all taught that black was bad. And we got it at the church. I mean, hey, we all learned about the epic battle between good and evil. And goodness was always light. It was white. It was purity, holiness, completeness, everything good in the world. Whereas darkness was black. It was sinfulness and wickedness and gloom. We even got it in the media, where when you turned on the TV and you would watch the telenovelas, you had the white Latinas in these beautiful protagonist roles, and then the servant roles, the maid roles, the slave roles were reserved for the darker-skinned Latinas. I remember just trying to understand why was black always bad, and I went to the dictionary just looking for an objective source, and I remember trying to just get the answer for the big question, what great crime did my ancestors commit or did I commit for me to be serving this life sentence of just perpetual, constant humiliation and degradation because of the color of my skin and my physical features? In short, the dictionary did not give me the answers that I was looking for. The definitions of black and white actually strengthened the narrative. I begin with this to illustrate the pervasive pathology and the racial narrative that I was born into in the Dominican Republic. This is the world that my fro was born into. Growing up, my family always made fun of my hair. Oh girl, your hair is so flat, it's so big, it's so skinny, it's so coarse, it's so difficult to comb through, it's just so dry. I was told I had curls that choked the air I breathed. I was told I had off-putting, pot-scrubbing, you look like you have been raised by wolves kind of hair. And my family actually called my roots mala raza, which means bad race. And they called the rest of my hair pelo malo, which means bad hair. Now, these weren't terms reserved exclusively for me. These are actually terms that Dominicans use to describe curly, coarse hair. And let's not get it twisted. My hair wasn't bad because it had done some criminal activity. My hair was bad because it was black. And in Latin America, the consensus was that you much rather wear pinned straight, even if it's unhealthy hair, that associates you with the European colonizers versus wearing the hair that naturally grows out of your scalp, because that hair associates you with the oppressed, with the enslaved. For that reason, my family decided to chemically relax my hair, to perm my hair at the age of 4. Just to repeat that once again, when I was 48 months old, my family decided to put dangerous chemicals in my hair, decided to put lye in my hair in order for me to look more like a good girl. I grew up seeing this box of Just For Me relaxer as the antidote to my pelo malo, as the solution to my racial problem. And I'm not sure how many of you guys have actually chemically straightened your hair, so I'm gonna try my best to illustrate what this experience was like for me as a 9-year-old, just really excited to undergo this transformation. Now, I'm gonna break it down in 2 parts. The first part is the excitement, and then the second part is the reality check, my favorite. So the first part is the excitement. And I'm not gonna lie to you, brainwashed by The Little Mermaid and Sleeping Beauty and all these Garnier Fructis commercials, I could not wait to just have this long flowing mane just blowing in the wind looking like the Dominican Pocahontas. I was ready. In anticipation and just the jitters, all this excitement is what I felt when I went perm shopping with my aunt. And after I finally secured my box of Just For Me, I would just impatiently sit in the chair waiting for her to finally put the creamy concoction on my hair and just watch my little kinky edges just relax into loose waves like Michael Jackson's hair, because that was my hair crush. Michael Jackson, yep. So as I waited, my aunt would actually prep me. She would put petroleum jelly or Vaseline on my forehead and my ears and my chest and around my face to make sure that I didn't get burned. And this leads me to the second part, the reality check. You see, when you first put that creamy concoction on your hair, it's actually still cool, a little cold, even a little minty. So you still have this ear-to-ear grin on your face because you're just excited about this super metamorphosis into a Disney princess, and you're just still beaming with joy. However, as the concoction actually starts cooking and starts penetrating your hair and starts removing, just melting off protein layers from your hair in order to strengthen it, it also burns through your scalp. I'm talking about third-degree burns. And as that grin just turned into screams and my screams got louder, my aunt would hush me and try to lull me with, "El que quiere pelo bonito aguanta jalones. El que quiere pelo bonito aguanta jalones." Translation, no pain, no gain. Let's just think about this. Burnt scalps, scorched follicles, permanent hair damage, and permanent skin damage. This is the price that little girls with curly, coarse hair had to pay in order for them to be seen as valuable, in order for them to be seen as good girls who obeyed their parents. So let me tell you about when I decided to become a bad girl. Now, after 17 years of doing this whole relaxer thing quarterly, year after year, I decided that I wanted to let my hair just run wild. I wanted to set the curls loose. So I decided to stop perming my hair, and I will be honest, this has been the most crazy, difficult, but beautiful challenge that I have ever had to take on. Every single day, I push myself to look at myself in the mirror and override all those negative thoughts that come up whenever I see my fro or my African features. The fact that, oh, your lips are so wide, your hair is so curly, your eyes look so weird, your skin is so dark. Every single day, I push to embrace my African heritage and just love myself, because Black is beautiful. Today, I'm very proudly rocking my wild, crazy fro. And as I continue on this journey towards embracing my rich Black heritage, I do have a confession. These curls that once choked air have now choked the life out of my oppression. Thank you.
I had always thought that identity was something you created on your own, a second set of skin that you yourself put on piece by piece. I was of the belief that I was my own creator, to be the kid that cut her own hair when her parents weren't looking, who ate her mother's lipsticks just because she could, the one who refused to go by Catherine. They shall call her Kit. At the very beginning, I established myself as a tomboy, with my ratty Burness hairdo and my entire wardrobe consisting of Jeanco jeans and 8 orange t-shirts of aliens playing a variety of different sports. My main motive was to dress like a boy so I could play sports with them, despite what people would whisper on the kindergarten merry-go-round. All throughout primary school, I was adamant about being exactly how I wanted to be, even though most people didn't want me that way. I don't ever remember being picked on for how I dressed, but my oldest sister assured me that it was the case. So as I went into middle school, she decided that she didn't want me to suffer the same fate that she did. So she told me the formula for popularity. She said that it consisted of wearing tight clothes, using liquid makeup that resembled actual paint, dating lots of hot boys, choosing choker necklaces, and always hair ties, never scrunchies. She told me that I had to change if I wanted this life, and I thought long and hard about her offer, a stubborn, unyielding Kit deciding if it was worth it. I remember the exact day I told my sister to turn me into a girl. She put me in tight short shorts and I wore a glittered butterfly shirt. My dad drove us to Ames for my grand debut, and you know what I realized? No one noticed me. No one stopped and said anything under their breath, and you know what else? I liked it that way. This was a defining moment for me because it represented me taking on the ideal of others, the ideal of society, and in turn, my own ideal. I was socialized the way I was meant to, trying to chase the life that I was told to love. As everyone around me fit comfortably into their identity's skin, I felt a constant tug at its corners, a suffocating feeling one moment, and then at other times like I couldn't quite reach the edge. I felt this every time it came to love. It was something I always struggled with, going on more first, second, and never third dates that I could keep track of, dating all types of men. The problem is that I couldn't connect. It was again and again, I was perpetually never in love. Instead of taking a hard look, I tried harder to hold on to the picture that others snapped for me. I would close my eyes to see it, picturing a long driveway, tunneled by trees with too long of limbs for their trunk. I'd see a house, blue with white trim, with more windows than empty spaces. There was 5 bedrooms, 4 upstairs and 1 down. A family fills its insides. 3 kids, 1 dog, a husband. I would clench my eyes to get closer to it, to see their faces and hear their voices, to see myself as theirs. But no matter how hard I tried, I could never quite see them. I tried so hard to know where I was going and where my place was, where I fit. The truth was, it was never meant to be mine. It was a dollhouse I filled with everyone else's things, positioned and adorned to fit just right. I realized this truth on November 17th, 2016, the day I met a girl with green blue eyes who tapped on my shoulder and said hello. In that moment, my blue house with white trim fell away, the trees collapsing over the driveway and the family's voices gone silent. Everything went blank except for her face, one I saw so clearly. But this time I saw me. I saw my part. I also saw how far my identity had stretched. This sculpture had been poked and prodded, smoothed out along the rough edges, and then sharpened when necessary. But I also saw its resilience. I saw that girl under the glittered butterfly shirt waiting to be found once again. We are all sculptures built by the hands of many, but we don't have to harden that way. Each day we can decide to be good, to love who we want to love, to be defined by who we are instead of what we are, and to be okay with not getting it right the first time around. Identities can always change. They can assume different roles in different parts of our life. They can take you down the wrong path only for you to realize that it was the right one all along. We all may not be our own creators, but what we should always remember is look for the girl under the butterfly shirt. She's waiting for you. Thank you.
If you know me, you know that I've always been proud of my heritage. I was raised immersed in Italian, Middle Eastern, Chinese, and Caribbean culture. My name's a testament to that. Karina means little sweetie in Italian, and Kurban means sacrifice to God in Arabic. But out of all of these cultures, I've always felt closest to my Arab side. However, I grew up in a very waspy town a little bit north of here called Winchester. Oh my God. And there wasn't a whole lot of representation for mixed kids like me. Representation only got worse after 9/11 when the media would portray Arabs almost exclusively as terrorists. Sometimes I'd even try to hide the fact that I was part Arab out of fear, especially after I witnessed my beloved grandfather be assaulted for his race when I was 9. But the pride itself would never waver. In fact, the moment I felt proudest of my Arab heritage was when it was used as grounds for detainment, interrogation, strip searching, jailing, deportation, and a lifetime ban. I was proudly Lebanese Palestinian every step of the way. So 3.5 years ago, I was traveling to do thesis research in Bethlehem and hopefully visit Haifa, where my grandfather grew up before his family was exiled in 1948, and where his mother, my great-grandmother, is still buried. Now, in order to get to Bethlehem, it's in the West Bank, so you have to go through Israel. So I arrived at the Tel Aviv airport at midnight on a hot August night in 2013. I reached passport control, and the woman there began asking me all sorts of questions, the most important one being what my father's name was. Now, my dad's half Arab, half Asian, but his name is pretty standard. It's Andrew. Now, when she asked me what my grandfather's name was, after I proudly answered Amal, which means hopes in Arabic, she had me step to the side. So I was led to a waiting room with little explanation where slowly other Arabs, Muslims, and Middle Easterners joined. 2 hours later, I was brought to an interrogation room where I was asked about my entire ancestry, what religious beliefs I held, if I spoke Arabic, whether my father was really born in Baltimore. The woman doing the interrogation, who couldn't have been much older than I was, claimed that I was lying when I said I was not Muslim. I don't know if you've ever been in a position where literally every single thing you say is doubted, even your name, and you're branded as a liar, but it's a pretty shitty position to be in. Literally everything they did was intended to humiliate me specifically for having Arab blood in my veins. Over the course of another 8 hours, I was interrogated twice more. They brute force hacked my phone and email. They found nothing, and they denied me entry anyway. I asked why, and they said security. That's it, just one word, one bullshit word. I thought being denied entry would mark the end of the night, but even after that, they continued to question me on mundane things like, what was the difference between flying straight from JFK to Tel Aviv versus flying from JFK to Amman to Tel Aviv? I was led to a security room. They strip searched me twice just because they could, and then I was taken to jail. Bars on windows, chain link fence, security camera, security guards, the works. The security guards pushed me into a room and slammed the door behind me. And it wasn't until I reached for the door handle and realized that it didn't exist that I realized I wasn't just having a terrible nightmare. There were 8 other women in the room, my nose filled up with the stench of urine and smoke. There was a sink with toothbrushes and hairbrushes and some food with flies buzzing overhead. The only window in the room was small, and it was boarded up with some wood panels and bars. There was a small separate room with a toilet and no shower. I sat down on the one free bed and realized that the mattresses were literally made of duct tape, like just entirely made of duct tape, just wrapped around and around until they were an inch thick. There was an itchy gray blanket with stains on it covering the bed and no pillow. Since it was very hot and humid, as it is in the Middle East during the summer, and I didn't want the blanket to touch my bare skin, I decided to sleep on the mattress only in my bra and underwear. I managed to fall asleep, but then a few hours later, a slamming door woke me up and a male guard came in. I was absolutely mortified. The bed that I was resting on happened to be right in front of the door. And so the guard very clearly saw me and my lack of clothing. And instead of giving the women and me privacy while we changed, the guard just stayed in the room and kept staring at us. And then he motioned for more male guards to come in, and they just kept watching us and started putting their hands on their crotches. I asked them to leave, but they just responded, "What's taking so long, princess?" Like I said, everything was designed specifically to humiliate. I managed to talk to security, and I asked them why I was there. They claimed there was footage of me with a terrorist, footage that they could not produce when I asked to see it. There aren't set laws for these things in Israel. The consequences are determined by your race. I was brought back to reality when the security guard told me, "You know that you're banned from Israel for 10 years, but this really means forever." Understanding the gravity of a lifetime ban made it impossible for me to focus on anything else. My eyes welled up as I listened to myself be referred to as a criminal. I was sobbing so hard because I knew I would never get to go back to Bethlehem and see all of my friends there. I'd never get to see the neighborhood in Haifa where my grandfather told me stories about growing up. I'd never be able to set foot on the Haifa beach where he used to spend his afternoons. And I'm never going to be able to pay a visit to my great-grandmother's grave in Palestine. But when I took a moment to pause and reflect on why this was happening to me, I realized that it was because I was so unapologetically Lebanese Palestinian The Israeli security forces felt threatened, and they felt the need to humiliate me because of how authentic I was to my identity. Kurban, as I told you, means sacrifice to God. Through this experience, I've had to sacrifice my ability to travel to Israel or Palestine ever again, but I learned that no circumstance could make me sacrifice the pride that I feel to be Arab.